The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
The web at mbradio.net.
Welcome to Beyond the Headlines with hosts MJ, H Train, and Terri. Each week we put today's news into perspective. Join us on Facebook, X, YouTube, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, or anywhere you get your podcast. MBR, giving veterans a voice.
And we're back.
Yeah, boom, boom, boom. You know, man, I'll tell you what, it gets me every time. I had the intro and everything. You know, when you think you got everything down the line, something always screws up. There we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are behind the headlines. You have Tracer as the host. You have H as the Can I Ruin Your Day guy. And we are back once again, another Monday afternoon of great, there's just a lot going on in the news today. Let me tell you.
There is.
I'll let you go first, Trace.
Well, so I found an article that I was really curious about that I hadn't really heard in the news, and maybe everybody else has heard about it. But I guess there were two youths. They're 20, so they're adults that were arrested in Michigan for maybe supposed attack, a planned attack on Ferndale in Michigan. So that's a suburb of Detroit. And they said they had AR style weapons and they had pistols, and that they had planned to hit a few clubs, but the FBI has shut that down and arrested them. But then the lawyer for one of the 20-year-olds, they said that also they were doing was pilfering. So they're stealing, which is okay. I guess that's fine. But they said there was no planned attack. So I guess Kash Patel is under a little bit of scrutiny because they're saying that there was no planned attack, that they were arrested and they shouldn't have been, that they were just doing target practice, that they weren't ISIS sympathizers. And so I guess there's an ongoing investigation about whether or not they really did have a planned attack of Michigan and the, a suburb of Detroit. And what was going on with that. So I thought that was kind of interesting news that I hadn't really heard. And then there's, some level of they're not uncertainty about whether or not that really was an attack planned or what's going on with that. But they said the investigation is ongoing. So the FBI is supposed to put out some additional information when they can talk further on the case.
Wow, I tell you what, I was talking to somebody earlier today about this. Not about this case, but just about like the shootings and stuff, I'm not motivating. I'm not trying to tell, anybody, hey, this should happen, but the government shutdown keeps on happening, and we found guns in the theaters. We found guns, shootings in schools. We found gun shootings in libraries. The one thing that we haven't found gun shootings in, which I think that's kind of ironic, and that's in the chambers. That's in the chambers where all these, government shutdowns and all these political pawn games and drama is going on. I find it very interesting that nothing has happened. Nothing.
Well, I mean, that's good. I don't want something to happen to our congressmen and our senators. They need to be getting to work and figuring out how they get the country back.
Right. No, I totally agree.
Going again, getting people paid and getting, things back in order.
I totally agree. But, my dad said it best. Times like these, when times are like really tough, people's backs are against the wall. And, when people's backs are against the wall, people will do things that they've never attempted before. Okay, like he can sit there and try to drown somebody, and like they're gonna fight for their life. They're gonna fight for that air. They're gonna do whatever it takes to when the back's against the wall. Of course, because it's an individual thing. Same goes with this economy. I'm telling you, it's going to come a time where it's going to get really bad. Like, I thought Halloween was going to be worse than it was. I thought there was going to be people that went trick-or-treating, and we was going to hear a bunch of news about, like, real life purges and stuff like that, because when people are back against the wall, their backs against the wall, Tracer, nothing's off limits.
Well, I mean, this attack was planned over Halloween, they said, and then it was stopped. But so, like, what you're saying, probably isn't, so far from the truth that people are planning things. I mean, last week we talked about this lady that had threatened to just steal whatever she wanted if her food stamps weren't renewed and she didn't get her, her allotment of money or credit that she's supposed to get. She was just going to take it. So, I mean, it could happen. I mean, I hope not. I mean, they are talking about funding SNAP and how that works out, because I guess they said, I heard something on the news earlier that said Trump wants to know how he takes money and allocates it towards that. He wants the court system to tell him how he does that legally.
Yeah, and I saw something in the news about how not only is the judge trying to rule against the Trump tariffs that he's like created and stuff, but this is what I don't get. I saw a TikTok yesterday. Maybe you can break this down for me, okay? But I saw a TikTok yesterday of a news guy, a journalist, not somebody off of TikTok, but like a literally news journalist. Mm-hmm. And they're constantly throwing shade at one political party about the government shutdown. And what I don't understand is, why are we throwing shade on anybody on the political party? This isn't a political party issue. This is an American people's issue, and look, you guys do whatever you guys need to do to sit down, mediation, talk, whatever. All I'm saying is, if you're going to keep the government shut down, tell the government, all right, keep my paycheck. Don't pay me this month, because if we have Americans working and we have military that's working and they're being cautious about being paid and stuff like that, okay, well then give them your paycheck. Give them your paycheck, because there's like literally nothing that we can do, and for news journalists to come on the air and talk about what's going on and, throwing shade, quit throwing shade. Tell us what we need to do. Tell us, American people, what we need to do. If we need to go into the chamber with Ranger panties on and, have a shirt that says, stop the shutdown, tell us what we need to do. This voting thing, yeah, it's not working for me. It's not working. It hasn't worked in a long time, because even though everybody goes out and votes every single time, when we get done voting, nobody's ever happy. Nobody's ever happy, and it's funny because the last time we did the election time, it was Biden versus Trump, the first time, and everybody kept saying, oh yeah, get out and vote. It's your civic duty. Get out and vote, blah, blah, blah. And my response was, you want me to get out and vote until you find out who I vote for?
Right.
Because nobody's ever happy.
Well, we do have a chance to make a difference. Election day is tomorrow in a lot of different states and counties and cities, who are voting for all kinds of offices, so it's really our civic duty and our responsibility to, try to get the best candidate for the job in the seat, because, the ones we've got in seats don't seem to be wanting to do the job anymore, or seems don't want to cooperate with one another. And I don't know if that's the kind of leadership we need in the House or the Senate, if for people just not to get along and just, it's not affecting them, their paychecks, but it's affecting a bunch of other people's paychecks. And I think until it affects their bottom line, they're going to continue to be disagreeable. And I just don't think that's the way our Congress, our Senate, I don't think that's the way we should run our country. I don't think we need those kind of people in office. I think we ought to vote them out if that's the way they're going to show us that they care.
No, and I always tell people when you go to vote, especially like local wise, when you go to vote, don't vote for a person with a party. What you need to do is you need to vote for a person that that can work, that has good people skills to where they might be able to work with the higher Senate and the House, President and them. Somebody that is good like character, somebody that is good with talking with people, Okay, I get it. You have your agenda, you have your party's agenda, stuff like that, but we need smooth talkers. We need people that are going to walk the walk and not just talk it. Because right now in the Senate and the House, all I see is a bunch of actors. Heck, I don't even know. Schumer might be in the next movie for all I know, because that's what we have right now. As we have actors, we don't exactly have political leaders. Because if we had political leaders, nothing's changed in the military. Your soldiers eat first. And that's not what's happening right now.
Yeah.
We need to go back to basics, I like I always said, I've been always a strong advocate for putting people that in the seats in the Senate and the House, putting people in the seats that have some kind of affiliation with military. And the reason why an affiliation with military is because in the military you're taught certain things. But until recently, like Dan Crenshaw, he got elected. He was in the military. It's not exactly doing too great for the home team, okay? When you go in there with making 180,000 and then, in office you have a value of like 400,000 million or something like that. It's like, okay, something doesn't add up right here,
Yeah.
So just because they was in the military doesn't necessarily mean that their integrity and the way they want to do job is going to be this in the same line. And just like that I forget what his name, that Douglas, the VA secretary, Doug, I forget his name.
Yeah, I've forgotten already too, because that tells you something when you don't remember their name.
Exactly. Well,
they've stopped working for the veterans and the people that depend on him.
So the government shutdown is two different buckets. We're not even talking about the VA bucket, and he goes to the courts and asks them to pause VA claims. Why, dude? Why are we going to pause VA claims? That's an entirely different bucket. Don't screw something up if you don't have to fix it, What do we learn in the military with a Humvee? Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Because there's a reason why that bell is still hanging on. There's a reason why that bell is still hanging. Don't try to fix it. So I don't know. I'm very, very displeased how our government is. But we're the problem for that, because we're hiring based on party and not on like Fetterman. That the guy Fetterman from Mississippi. I think it's Pennsylvania. He's a senator from Pennsylvania. Fetterman. He is a hardcore Democrat, right? He's a hardcore Democrat, but yet, you know what? He's voting yes to open the government to help his people, because it's not about you. It's about us. It's about us, so I don't know, just so much.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that it's all about a party and not about the true issues, and it's not about being collaborative. It's about who's going to be right and who's going to win, and nobody's winning right now. It needs to be the American people need to have their voices heard,
Yeah.
and we're not as American people or American citizens, our voices aren't being heard in Congress or Senate. The House or the Senate our voices are moot when it comes to them. They're just trying to fight between what's included in whatever deal. They're not really worried about the common American and their household.
I agree.
It's very unfortunate. Well, I think we're at our first break. So we'll take a break and then we'll come back and then we'll hear your issue.
All right.
We're going to play Pray for Our Planet, Blue Mountain Tribe.
The land is sacred. These words are at the core of your being. The land is our mother. The rivers our blood. Take our land away and we die. That is, the Indian in us dies. Mary Bravebird, Lakota.
Pray for our planet. Something's going wrong. Pray for our planet. Something's going wrong. Coal mines compromise the drip in the skin. The killing of the nature is a terrible sin. Pray for our planet. Something's going wrong. Plagues and disease, violence everywhere. They're killing all the nature and nobody cares. Anger and hatred, all they want to do is fight. I'm praying to the Father on this sacred side. It's gonna be alright. Get some tobacco. Grab your safe. Paint your pony. Paint your face. Raise your feather at a sacred place. Mother Earth is dying. It's a damn disgrace. Plagues and disease, violence everywhere. They're killing all the nature and nobody cares. Anger and hatred, all they want to do is fight. I'm praying to the Father on this sacred side. It's gonna be alright.
The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
And we're back.
All right, back once again. You're watching Beyond the Headlines with none other than Tracer and Age on the station that's giving our veterans a voice.
And we're
MBR.
missing MJ, and we're hoping
We're
she's
missing
coming
MJ
back before too
horribly.
long.
MJ, I'm ugly. We need the eye candy. We're not getting. We're getting canceled over here. We're not getting anybody watching. Come back. Yeah. Hey, I see you. Is that your MBR vest that you got there?
It is, yes. It is
Nice. Okay, so what is the let's see, the next story that you want to talk about? What was it?
Well, I thought it was interesting. There's a couple of them, and one I guess I found out, and we mentioned it briefly, that President Trump is going to partially fund SNAP for November, but it's not going to be a full funding of the program. But I also heard that Trump is trying to limit who gets loan forgiveness. Before, public servants and nonprofits could apply after they've had 10 years of service for public loan forgiveness for federal student loans. And he's trying to change the qualifiers for that. I know that a lot of cities, their public servants take advantage of that program. And so I'm not sure now who it's going to be limited to, but there's some court dealings in that now, trying to decide whether he's going to be able to do that or not. So I thought that was really interesting to bring about, because a lot of people in that sector, in public service in general, it's not a money making thing. It's a heart thing. Just like a nonprofit is a heart thing. You don't join public service to make a lot of money. You join it because you have a servant's heart, and that's what you want to do. And just like the military, you don't join for the money. Yes, the money can be nice, especially if you are entry level and you're getting paid all this money. But could you make more out on the civilian side with some of your skill sets? Yes, you probably could. But
I'll be honest with you. I joined the military for the food. I'm a terrible cook.
Well, no, and I agree with that. I mean, some people just need that first step, that leg up, and then they get it in the military because they learn skills. They get a chance to have resources behind them. They have food, they have housing, they have training, they have all these different things. And yes, it comes at a cost and a price. But once you've learned those things and you're kind of established as somebody in a field, whatever that field may be, whether it's IT or whether it's human resources or whether it's, some kind of law enforcement or fire, because the military does all of that stuff. You can take those civilian skills and go to the outside and probably, depending upon the profession or where you're looking, make more money than you do in service. But really, that's not why people serve. People serve because they have a servant's heart and they want to serve their community or their nation or just protect their family. People have all kinds of reasons for serving. But public servants that work for municipal governments, they don't make a lot of money typically. Most are there because people need jobs. Okay, so they are looking for jobs and they're looking for work, but they stay in public service. That might be a temporary gig for them, but they stay in public service because they have a heart for it and because they want to serve their community. They want to do the greater good. So having Trump say he's going to limit who can get loan forgiveness for something like that is a little disconcerting, but I haven't seen the parameters of what they're limiting the forgiveness to. So I'd be curious to see that.
Yeah, it I think the number one reason why a lot of people serve as a public servant is, everybody likes their weekends off. Typically, you get weekends off.
Yes,
Typically.
that's true. Unless you work for Parks and Recreation, and then
Yeah,
anything goes.
then you're just screwed. You're just screwed. And
Because they work early mornings, late nights. They work weekends. They work some holidays too. So they don't always get the advantage of being a 9 to 5 or a Monday through Friday kind of organization.
That's very true. And like my brother-in-law, he works at a park and city, gig, and his thing is he does like the replacement of the sprinklers and stuff like that. And about 6 years ago, I was on the circuit when this happened, but I was on the circuit and my wife had to cut the grass, right? She cut the grass and she called me up and she's like, I ran over the sprinkler, and I'm like, okay. So then she told me that she had her brother come over because, he knows sprinklers, right?
Knows irrigation, yeah.
He didn't know sprinklers, it was like, sometimes we think people know stuff, and when they're in their element, when they're in their environment. Kind of like a good example would be like Walmart. When you go to your local Walmart, you know where everything is, like the back of your hand. You know where you go to get this, to get that. But then when you go to another Walmart, you're like a fish out of water. You're like, oh shit, where's the bakery at? Because it's different. So I really think that he knows the system. He knows that system. Somebody knows the sprinkler system. He knows that system. So I told Cass, I'm like, yeah, hey, it is what it is. Unfortunately, now she won't ever cut the grass. So now she has an excuse. And every time I tell her, hey, I need you to cut the grass. Oh, I ran over a sprinkler head. Yeah, okay, well, that happened over 6 years ago. So,
You just need to raise the mower up.
Raise the standard, raise the standard. But if you want to go on another break, we go on another break, or we can hit the As the White House Turns. It's up to you.
Let's hit the White House.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the As the White House Turns.
All right, so here's an explosive update on the government shutdown is what I'm hearing, right? So it's not what you're being told. That's all I got to say. The headlines say it's about healthcare and rising premiums. You've heard it all, right? And then Democrats are saying that Trump wants to raise the cost of Obamacare. Well, it's not that he wants to. That's not the full picture. Here's what's actually going on. So when Obamacare, which, as you know, is the Affordable Care Act, first came in, it made health insurance mandatory. But after COVID, President Biden signed new legislation that temporarily expanded subsidies, basically tax credits, to make health insurance cheaper for Americans. Now, these weren't just discounts. And here's how it worked. It's pretty scary to think about it. The Department of the Treasury sent the difference in cash directly to the insurance companies. So if your premium was, let's say, $600 a month, and the new plan lowered it to $400, the government literally paid the $200 difference straight to your insurer. That's billions of tax dollars going out every single month directly to private insurance companies. Those enhanced subsidies expire on the 31st of January or 31st of December 2025, and starting in January, that money stops. And when it stops, premiums go back up fast. Millions of Americans will suddenly see their costs go up by 20, 30% or more. So we got to do something. So why is Washington gridlocked? Well, because those subsidies aren't just helping you. They're a cash pipeline for the insurance industry. And there it is. It's also free money for illegals' health insurance. Boom, there it was. And when that pipeline closes, the insurance companies lose billions of free money. That's why the Democrats are filibustering and refusing to move forward. They're not doing it for you. They're doing it for the companies funding their re-election campaigns and the illegals who they hope will vote for them. Insurance companies, pharmaceutical giants, corporate donors, the groups that pump millions into campaign coffers every cycle is who we're talking about. They're telling the politicians, you either extend this program or we're going to fund your opponent next election. And that's exactly what's happening. The Democrats are shuffling. So the government stays shut down. The American people get held hostage, and the money keeps flowing. Not to you, but to the middlemen. So let's call it what it is. This shutdown isn't about protecting Americans. It's about protecting a cash pipeline from the U.S. Treasury straight into the private corporations and a new voter bloc for the Democrats. And until we break that loop, until citizens start leading, not career politicians protecting their donors, nothing changes. That's the citizen leadership I always keep talking about. Focusing on what's real, following the money and demanding accountability, not headlines. Because the truth is simple. If you're paying the bill, then you deserve to know where your money actually goes. Wouldn't you agree?
Now, I will just add to it real quick that as of right now, today's status, the hold on, here we go. The U.S. shutdown standoff, the federal government shutdown, has now stretched into day 33 with no deal in sight. Millions of Americans, this is going way too fast. Hooked on Phonics did not work for me. Feeling the pain of SNAP food benefits have stopped leaving families unsure when their next meal assistance will come. Republicans say that the administration is desperate to end the crisis, while Democrats accuse them of playing politics with people's lives. Essential services like air traffic control, veteran assistance programs, care feeling the strain too. Fathoming crisis, and that's the next story that we can talk about. But you know, when Trump took office in his first term, it was pretty bad. The government shut down was 35 days, and you know, I even voted for that guy, but I was really upset that he let that stuff go that long. I'm going to reiterate this, and I'm going to keep on reiterating it. We're never going to get away from government shutdowns, unfortunately. You know, but you know, we never had government shutdowns before 1976. Think about that. Something to think about. Okay. If we're having government shutdowns, if we have to have government shutdowns, then there needs to be some kind of legislation that states that the Senate and the House do not get paid while we're in government shutdown. Because, I mean, you know, it's like that little story that we told last week. You know, if we have two roommates in the room and all they have to do is they eat DoorDash while they don't pay the apartment bill. You know, because they don't have to. They don't have to if the landlord's just watching them. If he's not saying, hey, you know, you got to get out of there. Because we can sit here and tell people, hey, you know, we'll remember them during, you know, voting and stuff like that. But see, that's not happening right now. People forget. People tend to forget really fast. Okay, because when election time comes, this thing with whatever Senator Wicker did, you know, with the Major Star Act, this other thing that Schumer's doing, all this stuff, it will be lost in translation within 3 weeks. Because if they're not talking about it, then nothing's happening. We have some comments on TikTok. As a veteran, I got all my pay, and I go to college using the GI Bill. Also, a fee of 75% of their pay if they operate under temporary budget due to not fully funding. Respecting thy elders, thank you for that. So that's off of TikTok, you know. And I'll tell you one thing that I gotta tell everybody. You know, we can point fingers and stuff, but for us to play something that is lean to the right or lean to the left, that's derogatory, that's not helping the situation, that's not encouraging, you know, cooperation. Yeah, exactly. We're not helping either as a society. You know, we're doing exactly what those politicians want us to do, and we're feeding the fire. Don't feed the fire. Yesterday, there's a journalist on TikTok that comes on, and he's so hard left, like he can't say it in the middle. And I've sent him a message several times. Hey, your journalism it sucks, man, because you're not calling it down the middle. You're doing it one sided. Why do I want to watch or even talk to somebody that's one sided that I already know their answer? I want somebody that can, show me different points of view. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be able to look at both sides of the issue. You have to be able to come to some kind of agreement because you can't just stay in one mindset. You have to be able to listen to somebody else's because if you can't, then there is no ground to be gained, and you can't have collaboration when you're doing that. I mean, the shutdown is a bargaining chip. It's
Yeah.
they're using it to get to strong arm the other group, whoever that is. If it's left, right, center, doesn't matter. That's what it is. It's a bargaining chip, and that's what they're doing. But at what cost? You know, and that's the thing that's upsetting is at what cost? Because air traffic controllers aren't being paid. So now when you go to the airport, you're probably going to have longer lines because TSA and all those.
Oh, they canceled a bunch of flights today. I don't even know if my best friend Danny's gonna be here Wednesday or not. My best friend Danny is supposed to be flying in. Where he's supposed to be flying in Wednesday. He's gonna be my co-host or whatever for the H Train show for Thursday. We have a really special guest. I better knock on wood because here lately, my special guests haven't exactly been special. They haven't exactly shown up here lately, but he's supposed to be showing up, and me and him are going to be doing a show together. And then we're going to go to a Broncos game. I'm not too crazy about that. But we're going to go to a Broncos game. Hey, look, Broncos games are always good on TV. You don't have to go in that crazy atmosphere. But we're going to go to a Broncos game, and then after we get to do the Broncos game, it's me and you, Tracer, and Cass and Deborah, and we're all going on the cruise, And it's going to be nice being on a cruise. I told several people today, hey, what's up, Amber? You catch her show on Saturdays man, I really need to write these times down.
Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern.
There you go, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we're going to go on this cruise. I haven't taken a vacation since 2018. I haven't. Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a while. So this is going to be nice. It's going to be nice, And damn it, I am going to buy me a monkey. I don't care what my wife says. We're going to go and I get to play with the monkey.
Customs may have something to say, even if she doesn't.
That's true. That's very true. But still, I'll get a stuffed animal monkey. I'll get her.
There you go.
I told you I was going to buy a monkey.
Right. There you go.
But yeah, it's and also please cite your source. Have an understanding of what an actual source is and state it exactly. That's what Respect Thy Elder on TikTok is saying. I hate one-sided journalism. Under the Desk, I really liked her a lot until she started really just swinging to the left. And I think the reason why most people swing to the left is because that's the popularity of people on the left. They're trying to get views. They're trying to get likes. Republicans and conservatives. There's not too many of them that are on social media. There's a lot. There's a few, but I think there's more people that are on that side to the left on social media than there is right. So that's the reason why you see so much more for Democrats. I don't know. That's just me guessing. But we have. Did you want to go on another break, or did you want to hit the next story?
Well, so I wanted to play the Reese ad real quick
Okay.
because we are trying to finish our
Yes.
fundraiser so we can get Reese out on veterans' graves, that have passed for recognition for Christmas. And so, if you want yours honored, you can select a local. Um, Cemetery where your loved one is buried and honor your loved one. Or you can just do an anonymous donation and just allow them to place a wreath on somebody that doesn't have family's grave. So it's a really great program, and we're really excited to partner with Wreaths Across America. So we'll play this real quick, and then I think we'll play the trailer because the movie comes out on the 7th. We're so excited. Sony has allowed us to be advertiser for their movie, and it is coming out on November 7th, and it is Nuremberg. So we'll play the Reese ad, and then we'll play the trailer.
At Military Broadcast Radio, the goal is to offer a platform for mental health advocacy while connecting the military community through various media platforms. Founded by U.S. Army veteran Joel Hunt, MBR gives a voice to veterans, first responders, and their families through streaming radio, podcast, video, and outreach events. With its leadership run completely by veterans and hosts of the diverse programming from all branches of service, MBR was created as a response to the silent battles veterans face after service. Military Broadcast Radio is also a Wreaths Across America partner, hosting a $5 backed sponsorship group page. For every veteran's wreath sponsored through the Military Broadcast Radio page, MBR receives $5 back to help support their platforms and outreach. Veteran and first responder stories need to be told and shared. And with your support, MBR can continue to bring together veteran nonprofits, mental health organizations, and government agencies to bridge the gap between veterans and vital resources. To find out more and donate, visit wreathsacrossamerica.org/MBR.
The station where our veterans' voices are heard, MBR Talk.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
I love that. It's like a combination of Michael and something. I don't know, but I love that song. Thank you, Man Talk. Catch Man Talk every day. I believe it's 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on Man Talk. Every day they're talking about different conversations that comes up in the men's world, things that don't get covered enough that you need to talk about, mental health and stuff like that. Also, we want to remind you, because it wasn't the Beaker Reach that didn't remind me, but we want to remind you, go to mbradio.us, go to our shop. You can order yourself a collaboration limited edition t-shirt with Die Tired and MBR. And, think about this, people, okay? When we do this collaboration, all right, it's not so much about the shirt. It's so much about, what it stands for, mental health. But I will tell you this. Die Tired is an upcoming band, and they are sweeping the nation right now. They're sweeping the pop chart, and it's so cool when you know an artist, you hear an artist, and you follow that artist, and then they make it big, and you'll be like, shit, I
knew them when.
Yeah, exactly. My friend Keith Deutsch, he was talking about, he was on a Winter Warrior Project event one time, and they was in an RV, and it was this little old group, little RV, nothing big, nothing grand. And he went and, he's like, what's your guys' name? And, he was eating dinner with them and talking with them and everything. And he's like, oh, my name is Zach Brown. And now to see where they are compared to when Keith met them, it's astonishing. It really is amazing. So that's really neat. So when you hear somebody they might not be licensed, they can always get to that, and it's really neat because you can say that you follow the journey. The last, I don't know if I want to say this or not because I'll just embarrass myself. Well, what else is new? There's a group that I used to follow that they became big. They became really a fad, but like I was a big fan of New Kids on the Block when they first came out. I knew them when they didn't make it big, and then when they made it big, everybody was talking about them. I'm like, oh shit, I knew these guys. These guys are crazy, Um, yeah, that was my first concert. And so when you go to a guy's concert, okay, like a I call it a heartthrob concert. Yeah, there's not gonna be very many. There's not gonna be very many men there. Okay, it's gonna be a lot of girls. Just like if you go to a 50 Cent concert. Yeah, I was the only white guy there. It was kind of awkward, but hey, you gotta read the room. You gotta read the room. So, the only other thing that I want to talk about, kind of getting away from politics. I think it's important to know, the Earth is changing. The Earth is changing, and today there was a report that earthquake strikes Afghanistan. It was a 6.3 magnitude earthquake, and that it hit northern Afghanistan, killing at least 20 people and injured more than 260. Rescue efforts are going, but with most homes built from mud bricks, many communities are left in the ruins. This latest quake follows a series of devastating tremors that have rocked the region in recent months. Bodies exchange, and also, I'll just read this because I think it's kind of important. Bodies have been exchanged in Gaza in a real rare act of cooperation. Israel returned the bodies of 45 Palestinians, while Hamas handed over the remains of 3 Israel soldiers. Since the ceasefire began on October 10th, nearly 270 bodies have been exchanged. It's a somber reminder that even in the moments of calm, the human cost of war never truly ends. And, hey, Trump gave it his best shot. He gave it his best shot trying to do, this peace stuff. But, it's just like our lives. You can't make people love you. You can't make people have peace. You just can't. You can't. You can give them an opportunity, you can give them a game plan, but just like he says, that they don't know what they're doing. Exactly. It is what it is. So I commend Trump for trying. At least he tried. We
Right.
can say that he tried. We can all
Yeah.
say he tried, but I don't think there's going to be peace in the Middle East. And the reason why I don't think there's going to be peace in the Middle East because religion means more overseas to people than it does here in the United States. If you understood that, if you went over there, you spent time with people. I spent 6 months in Hyderabad, India. And that was one of the most learning experiences that I could go through. Because people, when you go overseas like that, their religion, their work ethic on religion is totally different compared to ours. Now we have a work ethic when it comes to working, having a job. But over there, like they will give up their job if they feel like Ali or Buddha wants them to. Like they are really religious. And I don't think people grasp that idea. That's the reason why they're fighting. Religion and politics just don't mix with people.
Yeah, a lot of governments are really tied to religion in whatever shape or form that is in that country. But I mean, it really does have a big impact on what their politics are, what they say, what they do, and if they're at war or if they're not. A lot of it does have to do with religion in some form or fashion. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, and, it's just and the thing is, like I'm not a big I'm a Christian, but I'm not a big religion studier or whatever. But
Theologian.
from what I understand, there's not much difference in the Bible compared to all the other religions. Like the Quran and all that. There's not that much difference. They're basically all the same. I just think it's just different translation. That's what I think, and I think that's the reason why we have a lot of problems today with not only religion or with people, is because everybody is brought up differently, different errors. And with different errors comes different options. You're raised different. Me and you, we were raised different in a different society. And that's the reason why we have the initiatives, the reason why we have the work ethics that we do. But in this generation, they don't really have that. They don't really have that because they wasn't really taught that. And I think sometimes we have to understand that when you look at somebody, you can't judge them too hard because you don't know. You don't know which foxhole they came out of.
Well, back in the day, jobs were hard to come by, and people stayed at their jobs. They didn't leave. They stayed till they retired. They spent 20 plus years at the job because they were afraid that they wouldn't get another one or they wouldn't have one with benefits. And today's world, if you're not changing jobs every 2 to 3 to 5 years, they're wondering what's wrong with you because people don't have that the same mindset to stay at a job. They want to progress to the next opportunity, and most of those that stayed at one job for a long time didn't see much progression in their careers because there wasn't a lot of room to grow at those jobs. Sometimes there were. You had to wait till somebody retired. If you just happened to be there when somebody retired, then maybe you get a promotion. But really, they just stayed in their jobs because they were really worried about taking care of their families. And it wasn't that way and during this current era. There really wasn't that way until like now, when the people are concerned about their paychecks and concerned about that stuff. Now they're wondering where their paycheck is going to come from or their next, you know, um, food. That's why I'm really glad too that a lot of nonprofit food banks and stuff are stepping up right now to help people that really need that gap filled with the SNAP benefit and their funding there. So I'm really glad that they're really seeing the need and really feeling that need.
Wouldn't that be crazy if you went to work and somebody came up to you and said, Tracer, we got to talk. I got good news and I got bad news for you. And you're like, okay, well, what's the bad news? Oh, the bad news is Charlie died. Oh, really? The good news is, surprise, you're taking that position. I mean, they don't exactly say that, but I mean, when you go to work and stuff, you're kind of a number. That shit actually happens. So, yeah.
I mean, it does when people retire, out of a job, then they do have to fill it. And a lot of times, hopefully, they'll fill it with somebody that has tenure and has the knowledge of the organization and, is ready for that next step up. But that's the thing is, that mindset has changed. So it's not really that people are any different culture. I mean, maybe a little bit different culture wise, but just the culture of how we work and how we see progression and how we see longevity at a job has changed because we're not needing to stay at one job for 20 plus years, even though people still do. The younger, I don't know if it's not X, it's Y. I don't Gen Z. It's the Z's that move around and get to like not stay in one place and really see the progression in their careers and really and truthfully too, they want an organization that reflects what they are passionate about. And if the organization doesn't reflect that, they leave. Like they have to like what the mission set is. And if they don't like it, they're leaving because they want to enjoy their job and they want to support and have their values supported by their organization. And if it doesn't, then they leave. And, before we just grin and bear it if someone didn't like, we didn't like what they were doing, maybe necessarily, but we needed the job. So we were just like, okay, we're just not going to say anything. But today's workers, they want to be passionate about what they do and their organization.
Listen to this guy. Look. Travis writes, good evening, ladies. Maybe I should go get my cornrows on again. Just call me a lady. What is up with that? How are you, Battle? How are you doing? You can check Oscar Mike Radio every Thursday at
8 p.m.
Eastern Standard Time. He has he has a number 15th podcast in the world, so go check him out. He's an amazing person. Before we go, we want to say congratulations, not really, but we want to say congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers for getting their not one, but two back-to-back World Series. Blah, 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 blah. Congratulations. At least I got to say, I don't even follow baseball. I don't rarely have a team. If I did, that figure H Train. Hey, I tell you what, if you ever get an H Train shirt, man, I need to do a little bit better observing my design because it almost looks like he's flipping you off from the train. He's not. He's doing the one hand, but it kind of looks like a flipper. So I got to do better at that. And the last but not least news that I wanted to talk about, just announce. Oh, man, I forget what it was. It was NFL tonight's Thursday Night Football. So if
Cowboys are playing tonight.
Yep. So the Dallas Cowboys are playing tonight, and gosh, I can't think of it. Oh, yesterday, I don't know who it was. I should have found this out, but a new world record was made in the NFL yesterday.
Oh, really?
Somebody kicked a 68-yard field goal.
Whoa.
68.
That's awesome.
In fact, say your last bit of news real quick, and I'm gonna see who that was.
Yeah, that's all I got because we got to get out of here pretty quick because our companion who is commenting full speed ahead, he's on next. So go Cowboys. Cam Little broke the record for the for 68. It's Cam, he's the Jacksonville Jaguars, a young kicker. Cam Little has made an anniversary with only seconds remaining in the first half of somebody's game against the Los Angeles Raiders. Nailed a 68-yard field goal, setting the official NFL record. He surpassed the previous 66-yard record by Justin Tucker, and before Justin Tucker, it was Brandon Pater. Wow.
That's
awesome, though. 68.
Right? So, but yep. Most definitely. Hey, do not touch that dial. If you want to learn more about veteran resources and more inspiring stories, follow the veteran that's coming up, Josh McKay. He has a fantastic full show coming up, full speed ahead after battle. And until next time, until we see you guys next Monday, remember, we are here for you, not for us. Giving
our veterans a voice.
Justice Jackson, they captured Herman Goring alive.
Tell me about him.
He's the face of the Nazis. I'm going to put Goring on trial.
Ever escapes the hangman's noose. Very sure of yourself. No man has ever beaten me.
Goring has to fall.
You don't just have to win, you have to be flawless.
You're walking into a trap.
Knowing what we know now, would you still follow Adolf Hitler?
Nuremberg, rated PG-13, starts Friday only in theaters.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.